Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us, and that smile on my face and that spring in my step and that beat in my heart is because I get a chance to celebrate education as you're surrounded by people who have that same ethos and that same level of enthusiasm for education. Well, join us after we come back as we talk to our good friends about not UCCI, but a Resembit program. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks very much for joining us. And as you sort of draw alongside and value education as we do, and see the investment of our country and of our parents, well, it's important that we continue to do so. Dane Paul Parkman, I think this afternoon is not just another significant milestone in that evolution, but I think it's a reminder how we draw alongside each other in that collaborative approach. We'll see how we not want to build stronger bridges, but we extend into the future. So thank you and to the team. And as we get ready to sort of get into the discussion, I don't know if I'm excited. I'll try to contain it somewhat. So good afternoon to you, sir.
Well, good afternoon, Dwayne, and thank you so much again for having the UCCI team with you. And this afternoon, we are pleased and honoured to have in the Cayman Islands the representative for Resembit, European Union and Expertise France, Miss Enika Prescott. And I'm sure she'll tell you lots more about herself later on. But just to have her here and to give a warm Cayman kind welcome with us. But like you said, over a few months ago, we would have said to the public that we are doing this specific project of training Caymanians. And within the last 2 months, we've put the pedal to the metal. And this afternoon at 2 p.m., we'll be announcing those 55 persons who have been successfully accepted to pursue training starting around the 18th of July. And so this is a very momentous occasion for us at the UCCI and for the Cayman Islands to see Caymanians being trained, being upskilled towards being certified so that they can become competent towards gaining meaningful employment to sustain their families and to build career pathways for themselves. But I think I'll pause then and let the program project officer tell you more about some of the work that went into the background, as well as you can hear more about who Resembit is and what they've been doing in the Cayman Islands and across the region.
And I like the fact that you were aiming for 50, you got probably 3 times that amount, and just being the overachievers that we are, hey, why not 55? Nice round number. I just love it. And I say that because it truly fills my heart that we have come a long way. We still see, the distance we have to go, but as more of us buy in and have that partnership, we can see the take-up, and we see the future for employment, but also for opportunity. And I reflect on our last discussion with great enthusiasm. So this afternoon is just another step forward. I'm excited, man. I'm excited.
Likewise, and so first of all, thank you very much for having us again. It's a pleasure being here, and thank you for your partnership in this conversation. One of the things we said when we last came here is we need these conversations to be front and foremost in people's mind in the media, so gratitude to that. So yesterday we had our orientation, and we are pleased to say we had 55 students who have been accepted into the program, have said yes, and they came to get themselves oriented. 18 of them from tourism, 11 from solar PV, 10 from sustainable construction, and we have currently 18 from ICT. And so the first phase of this effort has been completed, and I'm grateful to say successfully so. And we're really excited to look forward to what happens next. And I want to take a little time at the end to share that, but I feel as though I want to give Ms. Prescott an opportunity to create a context in terms of what the entire program really is about and where does how Resembid at large really plays into this conversation.
All right. Thank you, Cleveland, for that lovely introduction. I am Anika Prescott. I'm the program manager covering the portfolio of sustainable energy across the Caribbean OCTs for the Resembid program. So a bit about Resembid. It's an European Union funded program, 40 million euro, spread across all the 12 OCTs, the overseas countries and territories. So that also, of course, includes the Cayman Islands. The thematic areas under which Resembid operates are the three areas which have been identified by these islands that are critical to the development of these islands. So Resembid, resilience, sustainable energy, and marine biodiversity. So thus far, especially the Cayman Islands, I must say that the Cayman Islands really took advantage of the grant funds made available by the Resembid program. Unfortunately, the application funding window has been closed, but again, Cayman did not they did not shy away from applying for these grant funds. So we do have projects under implementation, such as that of the UCCI, stewarded by Mr. Julian and Mr. Puckerin. We also have projects under marine biodiversity with the CCMI and the Mangrove Education Foundation. So, and then we will also have some projects in the resilience sector. So definitely a wide cadre of projects in the Cayman Islands under the Resembid program.
And this is where I remember when the inkling was out there and people heard about it and it's an acronym, or it's a French thing, or no, it's a new restaurant opening. There was so much. And the more that we see it, we understand how, in the Caribbean in particular, we can avail ourselves of the wider community globally as to what's available if we understand how to write for the grants, how to connect each other. And as we look at the OTs, I still call it OTs. I'll be politically neutral today. That partnership can extend so far. Help us to appreciate in each one we talked about for the islands. Does each individual OT get to select sort of what is important in terms of its projects, or is it that the Resembid say, listen, these are what we think, and so here it is, fitted into that mold?
No, Resembid is definitely, we follow the country needs, and all projects are country-led. So the process under which we undertook was, of course, we invited all stakeholders, for example, like the UCCI, to craft project proposals, which would have been then sent to the country-level Resembid focal point. And based on the needs, the developmental pathways, the policies in place, having that enabling framework in country, then the country-level focal point would then endorse projects to move forward to Resembid. Right. Once that first phase was passed, then the real work begins in developing the actual proposal. However, understanding the needs of the OCTs or the OTs, we recognize that building capacity in project proposal writing is something that is necessary. So Paul, to your right, received extensive training. I can call him an EU grant proposal writer extraordinaire.
From the lady herself?
in developing the project proposal for the UCCI. So Resembid provided that facility and has been providing that facility as of now, currently to other islands to build that capacity in country to be able to draft and craft proposals. And the UCCI and the CCMI and many others have been successful in that effort.
And I'm glad that you share that. I'm hoping that will not fall on deaf ears, as it were, in that there are perhaps two things that are crucial to a society. It's academic institutions, from the tertiary ones to da-da-da-da-da. Mr. Julian, come on, let's hear the beat some more. I mean, the thematic music. But mostly it's tertiary institutions serving as that breeding ground for the work that comes forward. But then project proposals, grant writing, that's not a phone call and an email. It's technical, it's involved, it's exhausting. So the Paul to be the project, extraordinaire. I mean, I think that's commendable.
Well, I'm speechless.
Being modest, yes.
I know, like yesterday, Cleveland asked me, "Are you ready to write another one?" I said, "Not after the first one."
I don't want to dwell on that extensively, but I think it's important. And hopefully, as we talk about knowledge transfer and knowledge-based sector, we look just generally at human history, the agrarian, society, the Industrial Revolution. Now, this supposed information age has been on. Maybe there's a fourth tier, and as we transfer knowledge and information, maybe we'll see the importance of that this person who's looking for, let's say, a scholarship to do something, a fellowship, you may have all the skill sets to successfully attain that particular qualification or that particular fellowship. But if you don't know how to make the application or don't know the application is open, it's like the guy who has all the food in front of him but doesn't know that he has opened the door to go into the room where it's set at the table. It's of no use to you. Well, when we come back then from the break, we look at the respective areas and perhaps Mr. Julian, through you, not just construction but sustainable construction. Almost, or is it an oxymoron to an extent? All right. And of course, Dean Paul, you'll give the invitation. Maybe the public can be a part of it. For the hour is nigh, as it were. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
This year's Queen Elizabeth II Botanic Park 5K Run Walk has been rescheduled and will be taking place on Sunday, July 17th to raise funds for the Children's Garden. Registration fee is just $25 and you get a t-shirt and breakfast. Not to mention a chance to win a prize, and they even have a prize for the best fascinator design. It all happens Sunday, July 17th at the Botanic Park in Northside. Race starts at 6:30 a.m. Registration now at racecaribbean.net. Sponsored by the Ministry of Youth, Sports, Culture, and Heritage, Cayman National Bank, Davenport Development, Coca-Cola, Cayman First, Water Authority Cayman, Logic, Chris Global.
Busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Subway is giving you flavor around the clock with the new Chicken Squad sandwich options. Try the classic chicken and bacon ranch, the sweet and savory barbecue chicken, or the chicken cordon bleu. 3 new appetizing and delicious sub options that you can also make into a wrap. The Chicken Squad is available at Subway for only a limited time. Subway, giving you something to cluck about.
The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter will be taking appointments from July 11th to 16th at his Crew Road Clinic. Appointment slots are limited, whether you're seeking advanced skincare, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles. Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email drportercayman@gmail.com or call 946-9020 to book your appointment today. That is 946-9020.
But I do have some questions.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program. Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And as we continue to talk about Resembid and UCI, perhaps Dean Paul Parker, let me ask you, the public is invited this afternoon to the presentation?
No, it is not a public event because we focused, we will provide press release to the media, but it will be focused on the recipients or the selected students this afternoon. Cost did not permit us, so we had to contain it. And but we thank the media like yourselves for disseminating the information, because that is how the public will become aware, because as we are successful with this project and we look to see how we can make it sustainable in the future, people will know what other career opportunities are available to them. So we look forward to those kinds of collaborations.
Well, I thank you for not just personally but publicly allowing us to be able to partner with you. And hopefully as the program unfolds for the next year and we set the stage for future sort of cohorts, that we get a chance throughout to highlight the students, their progress, what it's like, so that as a people we appreciate that great financial services is a wonderful opportunity for us.
No, that is indeed what part of the Resembid communications and visibility portfolio is, making sure that it is always front and center. So we definitely that's within our commitment to ensure that at every milestone the public is aware how it's happening and getting the message out.
And perhaps just looking at the four sort of areas and the students in it, you almost have an equal distribution, fairly much. How do we, let's just revisit for those who are joining us, two things. As we talk about the Resembid program, how do we determine tourism, the solar PV, the sustainable construction, and ICT? How did we decide that was the 4 or the 3 or the 10 as opposed to maybe fishing and farming, maybe legal services and financial?
Okay, so when the project was originally written, they had identified 4 key areas, and those being the ICT, tourism, solar, and it was based on the needs of the country. As Ms. Enika pointed out, the projects were focused on country needs specific. What we then had to do, having the broad areas, then finalize what were the actual needs and demands of the actual Caymanian public. What was the appetite? And so we had to do a survey as part of a labor market assessment. So that survey became part of a bigger project that we are working on called labor market assessment. Because the labor market assessment will help us to look at future trends and demands and needs for training, as well as what employers and are needing. And so by extending the different areas of possible trainings in each broad area, so for example in sustainable construction we had things like carpentry, construction technology, AC, electrical installation, and so based on the responses that we got from the persons, we then took the highest scores and then we went with those ones where we had the greatest expression of interest.
So you sort of use a statistical weighting to see where we are.
Yes.
And sometimes the market should drive the outputs, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and actually that was one of the very strong aspects of this proposal in terms of the data-driven decision-making and the fact that it's also responsive to not only what persons are interested in, but what industry needs as well. Of course, it doesn't make sense equipping all of these people with tools, skill sets, and it's not marketable in a local market. So really matching skill sets with what is needed on the ground in Cayman, what the industry partners want, definitely something that was a very strong component of this project as well.
It reminds me of the man in the arena, in a sense, as we look at that. Before I ask Mr. Julian about it, maybe Mr. Enika, from that perspective, as you sort of evaluate the program and follow it, what sort of things are you looking for, not only to gauge success from that perspective, but more importantly, if we were to write for another proposal, or if we want to expand and the input that we could get from your expertise, what would be those factors that would say, hey, this thing has promise and potential?
Well, definitely we always look at what the enabling frameworks in the country are. There is a national energy policy of the Cayman Islands. So what are the goals? They speak to pillars of, for example, an energy efficiency, creating an educated workforce, etc. This project, in terms of its ability in its outputs to not only impact the local, there's actually a tangible benefit to the local people. And that is something that is also very attractive. So when looking at future projects, I would always recommend that, yes, there may be some high-level overarching activities that you want to undertake, but there must be some beneficial impact that is felt by the everyday person. And this project demonstrates that beautifully. So in terms of crafting new projects, I always say pay attention to the people.
Something that I'm pretty sure has been the mantra across all the Caribbean, particularly from our mothers or grandmothers, the women of influence in our lives. They would point, as my mother does, to her head and say, once you have it up here, nobody can take it from you. That level of skill development. I'm sure every Caribbean, boy in particular, heard that from their mothers. So, Mr. Julian, from that perspective, as you develop the skills, as you made success, share with us.
Absolutely. And so if I would just piggyback off of what Ms. Prescott just said, paying attention to the people. So we developed a framework for how we think we could be successful here. And the framework is focus on training first, which we have already started. The next aspect is then focus on the internships experience. And for internships, we are looking to encourage the students to begin developing the skills before they get there. And so our job within this program is to focus on personal development as a key component, so that having listened to the students, having listened to the stakeholders at university and outside, meaning businesses, we have identified some key skills that lacking in some of our students, and so we wanted to make sure that we are creating a plan to actually develop that. And the third aspect of it is really focusing on partnerships, businesses, individuals who can work alongside our students and help support them along this journey. We believe if we started with TIPS, TIP, we could end up with a success model, critical. Let me talk a little bit about the success model, because it's one of the pieces that I am extremely excited about. It's one thing to train our students to acquire the skill set that would make them employable, but to ensure that they remain employed, they will have to exhibit a different set of skills. And so for us, that begins with an orientation to goal setting as an S. As the S in success, an understanding of their limitations so they can take ownership around that level of self-awareness, to be able to communicate effectively and powerfully in word, in language, in presence. Key thing that a lot of us will recognize in our students is a little bit soft, right? To be able to create meaningful experiences for others. If you are in a sector with it's important to push you so that you create emotional resilience. Resilience is a key focus for us. And the last two is, how do you scrutinize your actions on a daily basis so that you can receive feedback and change? And finally, how do you sell? How do you sell yourself? How do you sell your employer? And if you're in that profession, how do you sell to others? Key. And so if we started with tips, train them, intern them well, partner with the right individuals, we can end the success model by developing particular behaviors that would lead to them being employed long term. Because the success of this program is not just getting them enrolled. Our passing grade comes next June when we look at the students who have been placed in these internship opportunities, are they still there, right? And then we get to go back to Ms. Prescott and say, listen, we might be onto something here, so might there be an extension to...
And that should be the goal, right? And as you shared, I'm thinking of ownership and buy-in. The more of us, not just as potential partners, as employers, but even entrepreneurs and that sort of partnership, but also as other stakeholders, from the public policy analysts to the politicians, but also to the personnel who avail themselves of the programming. How do we ensure then at the end of the day, that training, that skill set, even despite the need here, we don't lose it to some other attractive opportunity elsewhere.
Key. And so bringing in the businesses in these conversations is really a significant part of this. So what the LMA is going to be able to instruct us on is what are the current and future needs of the employers that we currently have here. And in conversation with one particular partner, they are currently expanding in Cayman. And so the need for example, solar installers is projected to be 10 times the amount of what we will be able to produce at university level. And so being able to create this initial prototype will allow us to possibly be able to scale. So whether it's a recipient or any other funder, or even internally, government resources, we can say, look what has happened here, look what we have achieved, and look what we could achieve if we continue to put sustained effort in this direction.
If I may add, Dwayne, that
yes, sir.
One of our key partners so far along the way is WORC work. And why we've sought to have them on board, because as you know, all jobs are posted with them. You know, all persons who are going to be employed, employers who are posting jobs. And so we will ensure that all of our students are registered with work, so that if any jobs become vacant along the way, that our students are the ones who are able to access those jobs first before there's even a work permit placed for them. And so by partnering with work, we are looking towards making sure that they are successful not only in completing their training, but successful in acquiring employment. And like Cleveland pointed out, that part of the training is to have mentoring process so that they can not only get a job, but keep that job and make it a career for the future.
You know, when I hear work, in WRC, I'm thinking of Calypsonian, just waiting to make something, but I'll leave that until Monday. All right, let's pause quickly and take a short break. When we come back, let's talk more about it, because I'm thinking not only of the ensuing sort of next academic year, but what lies beyond that, and the employment, entrepreneurial, but also the impact on the economy and the environment as a result of our actions. All right, join us after the break. Stay tuned.
The best investment you can make for your business is in your employees. So why not make the Chamber of Commerce Training Center a partner in your success? Studies show that professional training and development is the key to retaining employees, increasing productivity, and improving profit margin. Grow your business with the Chamber and choose from 5 different course categories, each designed to improve skills and increase knowledge to meet the needs of an ever-changing business climate. Visit caymanchamber.ky for a list of courses or call 949-8090 for more information. Make the Chamber your training partner.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
JN Money, money touchdown. Send the money now, reach wow. You say you need some money, JN Money, I can send it in a hurry. Get through quick when you come collect your cash, or use a money card and swipe it in a flash. Send funds to any bank, yeah. Pay your bills quick, yeah. Low fees, you know what it, yeah. JN Money, we are pick, yeah. Send and receive funds at any JN Money location. It's fast, affordable, and convenient. Money touchdown with JN Money. Send funds to any bank, yeah. Pay your bills quick, yeah. Low fees, you know what it, yeah. JN Money, we are pick, yeah.
Call 345-945-2014 for details. Available at JN Money locations across the Cayman Islands.
Your Yesteryear Musical, Saturday evenings at 8 o'clock on Breeze Radio. Entertaining, enlightening, and inspirational. Topical with CI cultural and heritage flashbacks. And the wonderful music of yesteryear. From the Thomas Edison era to the recent past. Your yesteryear musical, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on Breeze Radio, 105.3 FM in Grand Cayman and 91.9 FM in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
As the community continues to take precautions from COVID-19, it is important to stay prepared for other disasters now that we're in the hurricane season. Here are some post-hurricane safety tips from the Department of Environmental Health. Some tinned food items may still be safe for consumption after contact with flood water. However, tins must then be immersed in a solution made of 2 tablespoons of chlorine bleach per gallon of water for 10 minutes. Ensure that containers are air-dried before opening. For full guidance on post-hurricane safety tips, visit www.deh.gov.ky.
Due to unforeseen circumstances, the Needs Assessment is unable to hold its previously scheduled district visit to Easton Civic Center today, Friday, the 8th of July.
But I do have some questions.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And thanks to the Dean Paul Parker, Dean of Professional and Technical Education and Training over at UCCI. And through the Resembly program, I think we're seeing the continued investment in our people. And together with Mr. Julian Cleveland, I'm expecting great success, not just from the continued investment by all of us as stakeholders, but by our students seeing the opportunities. And I think, Ms. Prescott, when we appreciate what the Caribbean is and what it can be, if we are willing to collaborate, it's probably easier for us to fly to another country than it is to fly next door at times. Maybe that'll be a recognition that we need to change that so that we are integrated more and more. The funds that the industrialized world would allow the poorer third world nations of the Caribbean to benefit might just be the turning hand. Could be asked through you then. This is but for a small step, but it's significant in the overseas countries and territories in the Caribbean. Whatever the justification, whatever the impetus, if we employ it well, we could see resounding success.
One of the things, especially for this program and several programs under the Sustainable Energy Portfolio, is something that you just touched on, was the regionality of it. Right now, I believe the UCCI may be the only institution offering these types of courses, or these cadre of courses, and there's potential beyond the shores of Cayman to attract students. There's more potential for Cayman and the UCCI to share their experience, because we also have projects coming on stream that speak to training at the college level, the secondary school level in countries like Anguilla and Montserrat. So again, bringing that regionality into play is very important, especially when you speak about education and having lessons learned, challenges, what worked, what didn't. So one of the greatest things that I would like to see coming out of this program is that exchange between institutions, and also creating or increasing that level of visibility of the UCCI is moving ahead, stepping forward in innovative topics and themes, and can be trained. You can come to the UCCI and be trained in solar installation or something as niche as sustainable construction. So again, the regionality is something that's also a huge measure of success of this program as well.
And I think that I'm mindful that people may either misunderstand or inadvertently misstate. But if you have people who have a shared connection, either through history, language, food, culture, or otherwise, they may be able to not only integrate but interact much easier, and that knowledge transfer occurs. And it's great to have people from all walks of life and all places assemble. But if you're more adept at something in this explanation, you may be more prone to take it on board. And having that regionality, as you put it, makes it perhaps better ground, Mr. Julian, for success.
Yeah, and absolutely. And being that we are in the same region, it means that our challenges are very akin.
Yeah.
And so if we are able to be the flagship
Mm-hmm.
for creating courses that are particularly suited for this region,
Mm-hmm.
then it's not impossible to imagine being able to offer that either virtually or some format,
Mm-hmm.
and that students can take it and then probably come to us to then develop practical skills as well, but really serving the region, beyond just the Cayman Islands.
And I'm hoping that will help us, because having those centers of excellence, having the understanding that integration and interdependence is much more important than recognizing that no man is an island. And if we are able to do that, we should be able to pull on, Trinidad, Barbados, wherever, to connect us. And that, perhaps for me, Dean Paul, is the one thing that is so striking. We can benefit from what we have already.
Yeah. I do share that, and RISMBID has provided that, because the support that they have given in the grant writing, for example, the gentleman who assisted me, Richard Jones, he's from Barbados, and he I guess I was blessed or fortunate, but normally, as Miss Prescott would tell you, that when you have to write these things, you have to write them on your own, and nobody gives you that.
Sink or swim, huh?
And so, you sink or swim. Yeah. But I'm very, I want to posit my gratitude to her and the RISMBID team for that support, because it helped in ensuring the success of the project completion and the implementation phase that we are undertaking at this stage. So the regional aspects of it are fruit.
I recognize that perhaps in our discussion some may hear it and think it's esoteric, but I'm hoping that as we look at it, it resonates in a different way. My reference to sink or swim, seemingly in the Caribbean, that seems to have been our approach. Even when we're teaching our children, to swim, literally, we take them in the boat or in a dock and we toss them overboard. Is that how you swam too? You made it back to shore, I believe.
Yeah, just barely.
Just barely? Well, you amongst many.
Couple of close calls.
Yeah. But how do we then get to that space where we understand, like, the support that we need? Think of it from the perspective of either the lawyer whose article or is coming into, newly minted, or the person as a business executive has a mentor. So we see that at some point in our lives, either through age or professionalism, that we need this level of support to navigate, to guide us. And yet with our young people, or even in research grants or assistance, listen, you're on your own. I had to find my way. Follow the breadcrumbs back if you're lucky enough to leave them. When are we going to get to a place where our success is dependent on the next generation's success?
When you look at some of the key levers around behavior change, you have two, right? The first of which is feedback that's timely and relevant. And the way you get that is to mentorship really provides that. And so for us to give our students an opportunity to have a conversation with someone, a professional, about personal matters, and we have structured how that would look like, and also challenges that they may be having in the classroom or on their job during their internship, I think is huge, right? And the second lever for us is a sense of really self-awareness, right? Who I am, what skills do I possess, what skills do I not possess, and sometimes we all have blind spots, and so you might be able to recognize that on your own. And so the mentorship component for us, I think it's really fundamental, and it really drives a lot of this behavior change effort that we're trying to focus on. So as we look forward to the next phase of it, getting mentors, volunteers involved with this program who can come alongside our students is really the call, that we're putting out. We have 50 students, and we'd love to have 50 mentors.
At the institutional level, because of course that is something that we talk about in terms of transforming lives, transforming institutions, embedding this type of attitudes towards sharing and exchange. At the institutional level, RISMBID has been very active in terms of creating fora, as in spaces, for these countries' institutions to get together to talk. So we've been holding communities of practice. We'll be holding a forum for sustainable energy before the end of the year, so that those countries that have projects that are under implementation can talk and say what's working, what's not working, make contacts. What the UCCI is experiencing right now could benefit Anguilla and their community college when they bring on their projects on stream next year. So again, also having a champion to create a space, and again having that commitment by individuals to be able to say, okay, we can learn from each other. As you said, no man is an island. So having a champion, creating a space, and having that commitment to keep it going.
The notion that as I listen to the importance that we can learn from each other. We think back, perhaps, just to the 90s, the amount of changes that businesses were undergoing. They were benchmarking, they were looking at other things as they retool, and have we learned from that? And are we able to say, whether it's an academic institution, whether it's a business, if we partner, we're not necessarily competitors, we can be collaborators, not co-conspirators, not colluding, but how do we build this resilience? I'm excited of the prospects that lie ahead, and perhaps as we continue, may I ask, as you go through, whether it's weekly or whether it's quarterly, and you evaluating your students, that you insist that we, the public, are not just engaged and informed, but are prepared to be held accountable by holding you accountable.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, we all play a part here. And so what business owners should look forward to in the next couple of weeks is receiving maybe an invitation to complete a survey or to be part of a focus group or be part of a one-on-one conversation. And if you get that, I really encourage you, please say yes to that. As a larger community of individuals who have students who have been enrolled in this program, we need you to be able to support them, and the overall development. As I mentioned before, mentors and volunteers who are there to really show yourself, raise your hands and say, I want to be a part, so we can pair you with a student who needs your help.
But before I ask, Dean Paul, for your closing comments, Ms. Prescott, first off, I'll just say I still resemble that, but I like the way you say it much better. And there's another syllable in there somewhere. May I invite you for some closing thoughts and, share with us so that we are understanding, I think, from what you said, we're inculcating a sense of humility in all of us, especially the participants, that we come into this with a skill set, we're coming to develop further, and we're coming to appreciate that we're learning. We may know something, but we don't know everything. And the only thing that we know is that we don't know what we don't know, right? Share with us, what would you want in terms of the outcome for this if we truly are successful?
Oh, the resident program, I can say professionally, I am ecstatic that this project is unfolding the way it is. Again, success is paying attention to the people, and Cleveland and Paul are doing exactly that. But what I would like to see is all of those branches that can come out of this program, the cooperation, the collaboration, mobilizing private sector to really take in hand, the opportunities that exist by creating by creating talent, because talent is what we are doing right now. So really looking forward to seeing those cooperative actions, not only on the ground in Cayman, but also regionally as well.
Yeah, that's the Dean Paul.
What I want to end on is that we started here in Grand Cayman, but it's our aim that come September that we will explore what are the key needs in Cayman Brac and seek to provide a similar opportunity for minimum 15 persons there to be trained in areas once we've identified the areas that are best suited for them, because we know their needs will be different to Grand Cayman. But that is our aim, that the project will reach and touch Cayman Brac as well.
The entire Cayman Islands.
Yes.
Well, this is the exciting part, and I'm hoping that, as a society, we will buy into it and see not just the employment, not just the entrepreneurial sort of impact, but what it means sustainably for generations to come. Many would say, wow, you have sun every day, even at night, and yet, we don't seem to be looking at sustainable energy. Well, there needs to be a will, and I think the will is here. So thanks very, very much, right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, join me whenever you can again, Paul. We're gonna.
I'll make contact with you.
All right. Thanks very much, and it's a pleasure, Mr. Prescott.
Thank you very much for the
Mr. Julian, I see why you don't mind.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna pause and take a break, and when we come back, we want you to join us for another, sobering discussion, as it were. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. Water Authority Cayman wishes to advise its valued customers and the motoring public of planned works to upgrade the water supply infrastructure along Maple Road. Preliminary work began the week of July 4th. The project will commence on Monday, July 11th, and work will take place on weekdays between 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. The project will last for approximately 10 weeks. In international news, Ghislaine Maxwell has appealed against her child sex trafficking conviction and the 20-year prison term she was handed by a U.S. judge last month. Maxwell was convicted in December of recruiting and trafficking 4 teenage girls for abuse by her then-boyfriend, Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein took his own life in a New York jail cell in 2019 while awaiting his own trial. Maxwell's appeal process was expected and will likely last several months. Parts of a Mail on Sunday story about the Duke of Sussex's dispute over his security were potentially defamatory, a judge has said in an initial ruling. Prince Harry is suing Associated Newspapers Limited for libel over a February article about his legal battle with the Home Office. His barrister said the story falsely suggested he had lied and cynically tried to manipulate public opinion, but A&L said it contained no hint of impropriety and was not defamatory. The High Court ruling is the first stage of the libel battle, which aims to establish what the article meant and what claims the newspaper group will have to defend. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray, and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Ransomware, DDoS, malware, phishing. If you don't know what those mean, you're not alone. But if you aren't protected against those cybersecurity attacks, then your business is at risk. Don't leave your data or your business vulnerable. Get Digicel Business Protect. Simpler, smarter cybersecurity. Visit our website, www.digicelbusiness.com, to request a callback or call us now on 623-2499. Did you know that ValueMed Pharmacy has a free online prescription service? Managing your health and medical requirements has never been easier with ValueMed. Simply visit value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com and click the Refill Prescriptions tab on our website. Fill in the information for new prescriptions or refills and choose your preferred pickup location, ValueMed on Walkers Road or Boddentown. Then bring in your original prescription from your doctor when picking up. There's no need to stand in line and wait for your prescription. Save time and pick up prescriptions at your convenience by visiting value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thanks very much for joining us. And I'm glad to have this opportunity. Not just to speak to a subject I think Ms. Ronda has always made not just palpable, but for us, it's sobering and it's somber, but we appreciate that it's a part of life. And I think if we come to something with a sense of deference, if we appreciate that it's a path we all traverse, and there has to be a sense of honesty and integrity, and at times appreciating that we really don't know, but yet we want to be helpful, and in so doing, we're not. And maybe as you talk about the Box of Hope, well, could I ask then, give me two things. One, just a brief intro and bio of yourself, if you would. And then secondly, the impetus for this, what you're doing and why. And if you give me a license, I don't always believe that it's easy to ask, forgiveness and permission. I've never subscribed to that. I see that it works effectively. I always like to. But there's a reason I want to, because I think your comportment, your disposition, just the love that you have for people is so evident that I don't want to say oozes out, it's just natural flows with you. You're a beautiful person.
No.
Not just because you're family, but hopefully you don't hold it against you.
Oh gosh, well, thank you so much. First of all, good afternoon, and good afternoon to your audience. It's a pleasure to be here. And just, introduction of who I am. Again, Rhonda Cornwall. I am a life and grief coach, and primarily my focus is, on the grief coaching, because, again, having gone through loss, a major loss myself, my heart is always for those that are bereaved. So that's one of the reasons why I'm here today. So, yeah, that's kind of about me, and you're absolutely right. My heart is for people, and I absolutely love being able to support them.
And that's the thing. We hear about servant leaders. We experience sometimes, thankfully, people who come into our lives. And I say that mindful that me, the individual, sometimes either do or fail to do certain things that cause those people to leave our lives, and we don't appreciate the loss. And even when we do recognize it, we don't really understand the significance of that loss. So they come in as a time, for a season, for a reason, and the like. And for many of us, it's a challenge because we lack either the courage or the conviction. We don't have at that time the capacity to embrace, and it's challenging. I mean, I'm a bit kind of emotional, but I'll recover, because that's what we're supposed to do, isn't it? You have to be stoic, you have to be staunch, you have to be strong. It's not a song, You need to be compassionate and considerate and appreciate that life brings you sometimes many things, and just because you got lemons, you don't need to make lemonade. You don't need to make a pie. You just need to understand that lime helps to. Is the balm that you need. Yeah.
It's a part of life, right? There are ups and downs in life, and loss is one of those things. Grief is one of those things that's very much a part of life. And I think when we start to understand that, and understand that this is something natural that is occurring, then we can understand how do we care for ourselves in the midst of this, and not shy away from the conversations, because that's what happens oftentimes, right? We hear the word grief and we start to back away. Whereas, my job is to put it out in the forefront and say, let's talk about it, because if you're feeling it, you need to talk about it.
Bob Marley says, he who feels it knows it,
exactly.
Right? And I'll share publicly. Increasingly, perhaps I'm becoming more comfortable. I recognize that for me, grief is that thing where you box it up. You don't share it. You internalize it. You keep it. I would probably make a bad politician for many reasons, not least of which I don't go to funerals like that. It's a very private thing. I have the utmost respect for not just the departed, but their families. And when I'm there, it's to be respectful, to show, my love, not to dismiss that we as a public have an expectation of certain people to be in attendance. That is a discussion in and of itself. But at that point, that family needs that love and that support, but continually, right? And I think for us, we don't see that in the absence of tears that person is grieving. We don't see that focused approach to the work or the task or the thing after. It's just to escape, just to occupy, to preoccupy, as it were. And yet you draw alongside us and say, hey, you know what? If today you need to laugh as full as you want. You need to cry as loud as you want. Just understand that there's a support, and you offer the Box of Hope.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that the whole idea behind and the whole reason why I created Box of Hope is because there's this recognizing that people sort of have this period of time, like you sort of referred to just now, where the support is there. They have a loss, and for the first couple of weeks, people are there by their side and they support them. But then people go back to their lives, and the bereaved is kind of left alone to kind of figure out their life. Their lives are in pieces, and they got to figure it out on their own. And Box of Hope was created to be able to still let them know that they are supported and they are thought of, even if people can't come to their side all the time and be present. Receiving a box that is, created with products that are there to support you is a great reminder that you're still remembered, and that's important, believe you me.
See, the thing is that, grief for many of us would be most evident when we lose someone dear to us. Doesn't matter if it's an extended illness, they've lived to 1,000 years old, you still love that person, you still miss them. But it comes in all shapes and sizes and forms for everybody else. And for some of us, well, it's been 50 years now, what's wrong with you? Get over it. Or it's been 5 minutes. Whatever we say, to that person, thinking that we're saying it lovingly and intending for it to be in love. But there are those of us that, 30 years later, it was just as if it was 5 minutes earlier. And how then do we get to that space where we get people to understand that support needs to be consistent, it needs to be continual, and it needs to be in sometimes the most evident, sometimes the most subtle of ways. Think of the person who always took out the garbage, for argument's sake, or always stopped on a Friday afternoon to get a plate of turtle, once a month, or once a quarter. It's no longer there. You miss that. And you don't realize how much you miss it until you miss it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing about loss and grief, right? It's easy for people to say, "Oh, well, just get over it. It's been X amount of years. Why are you still grieving? Or why does it still hurt?" Right? But as long as you love that person, as long as you still feel that love, you're going to grieve. You're going to feel the absence, because the grief, the pain, the emotions come as a result of not having access to that. And that's why, like key milestones, their birthdays, the anniversary of their deaths, all these things bring up the memories of that, because it's a reminder that a person that we love isn't here with us anymore. And that hurts, And so I think we just need to, for those that want to, that are supporting the people that are surrounding them, it's just being cognizant that you can still feel the pain, even if it's been 50 years. It takes one thing really to trigger those emotions again and remind you of the loss that you have.
And I'm glad that you shared that, because it may remind us that it's not just those significant milestones, the birthdays, anniversaries, to whatever. Sometimes it could just be a comment. It could be a particular sunset. It could be a particular thing. And you at that time, that strikes you. And unbeknownst to anybody else, it impacts you in a certain way. So much so that some of us say, you know what, I'll never love again. I won't draw close to that pet or to that person, because, you know what, eventually one of us is going to be gone in some capacity, right? And then we're denying that love, and the quality of life is impaired.
Yeah. And I think what you're speaking to is almost self-survival, right? We try to numb or remove the thing which has the potential to hurt us. But the thing with grief is, when we try to run from grief,
it finds us.
Yeah, it definitely finds you, and usually in a time when you don't want it to, right? So I always encourage just to take the time to face it, right? To feel what you're feeling, acknowledge your grief, so that you are able to just be able to continue to move forward, right? Because those emotions aren't going anywhere. And it's just like, if you think about a glass of, say, a liquid in it, right? Water. You keep adding water to it. It's getting fuller and fuller, and eventually that's going to spill over. It's the same thing with your emotions.
I mean, Bob Marley's song, you're running, but you can't run away from yourself, right? So no matter how hard you try, how much you preoccupy yourself, it's in there, and it may spill over to a point where it's unhealthy. You can go to the boxing gym and hit that bag as hard as you want. You can take that run. I can make it a 1 minute mile. I can see if that's possible, and you can exert yourself. But the next day, it's there as you awaken. So then, tell us about the Box of Hope. How do we make sure that we understand that there's a safe, nurturing opportunity, that we have to be not just resourceful, not just respectful, but responsive?
Yeah. So Box of Hope is a product offering from, my coaching business, Hope's Dwelling. And it really came out of my grief coaching with clients and recognizing that oftentimes there are periods of loneliness and periods where support isn't around because people are either uncomfortable in supporting because, again, they're then faced with the emotions of grief, or people just don't know how to support. And that is no fault of people, to be honest, because we're not taught how to support. We're not taught how to be there for the bereaved, how to deal with grief. And so recognizing that in my clients and in individuals that I see, grieving, I wanted to create something that was going to be able to bridge that gap between those who want to support but don't know how to, and those who are actually grieving and missing the support. And so Box of Hope brings together products that will, provide grief education, because that's important. You need to understand what's going on with you. Otherwise, you sometimes feel like I'm going crazy, all these emotions, and I don't understand why I'm always feeling down. And, so the grief education is an important component. There's self-care, because when you're going through difficult times, the last thing you're thinking about is, have I ate or have I, engaged in self-care? So there's a reminder to do that. There's items in the box that will include that. But Box of Hope is that product that can be that bridge that will provide the individual who wants to support a way of doing that in a tangible way. And then if you think about the person receiving it, think about when you receive a gift, what do you feel when you receive that gift?
Especially if you know it's coming with love.
Yeah.
That agape love. It's the simplest of thing. That person thought of you.
Yeah.
And you were remembered. You were an individual in that person's thought.
Exactly. So even if that person can't personally be there for you, but they send you a gift, then you're like, oh, they remembered me. And so that's what Box of Hope is meant to do, is to give individuals a way of showing their support. And I mean, obviously, the bereaved can, order it for themselves as well. If you need that encouragement, and you know it, then by all means. But yeah, that's what Box of Hope is. It is items that are put together that are going to encourage, inspire, and provide ways for the person to take care of themselves.
What's that lyrics in that song with Susan? Loneliness won't leave me alone. And sometimes, at the end of the day, that's what's happening. And it comes not just in the middle of the night or the middle of the morning that you can't sleep. You may be in the middle of your day at work that you need to focus on this report. You need to get this deadline. You need to do these things. But for whatever reason, right, you're not willing to acknowledge that this thing is now resonating in your mind. And we hear about the stages of grief now. The little bit that I understand, the little bit that I've read, tells me that it's not stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. We don't just go from one stage to the next. We bounce back and forth. And there's even a growing body of knowledge to say, well, maybe there aren't really these stages and the like. But we can recognize some of it through ourselves. Take that into account. Share with us so that we appreciate that everybody experiences, things differently.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, the stages that you're referring to was created by an individual, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and basically she was working with hospice patients, and so she recognized the sort of stages that they went through as they were facing death. And of course, her work was recognized with, for grief knowledge, and was then adapted for how do we care for grief, those grieving. But the one thing, like you sort of referred to there, is there's not really sort of a linear stages of the grief, right? Not everyone will feel angry. Not everyone will go through that, phase of depression. It all depends on the individual, and it also depends on so many factors. But the relationship that you have with the person who has died, or the thing to which you're grieving, makes a difference.
Yeah.
So if you weren't close, say to a family member that died, you're not going to feel the grief like someone else who was really close to them. And so grief is very unique and individual. And, there's not going to be one or two people are the same, like grieving the same way.
Even the same family or
exactly.
The same environment. We're speaking to Ms. Rhonda Cornwall, Box of Hope. Phone lines are open, and for many of you, you will get a special treat, because when you call, Ms. Susan answers at 949-8037. We're toll free with the compliments of Flo at 1-800-534. I recognize a lot is happening in our world today, in our personal lives. For me, there's great uncertainty, and for some of us, that's probably one of the biggest things that drives us and makes us whatever it is that it makes us, right? And as you think of grief, it isn't, well, today you go through the stage, and then tomorrow, or this week and then next week, or this month and this next. We find people that may go through these things over years, and then a decade has passed, and they're still grieving. They're now angry, they're now depressed, they're now, as it were, and yet we are there. Come on, man, get over it. Suck it up, buttercup. We genuinely want the person to get on with life, and you got to put yourself back out there. Probably one of the worst things I've ever heard. Come on, but we mean well. So how then is asking that? What do we do now for that supposedly supporting cast of friends, family, and everybody else, trying to get this person out of that rut, out of that thing that we've coined and we've assigned a label to it that they're going through. If you're just in a funk, what you need is good fishing trip. Probably helps.
Yeah.
I mean, is there anything for those people, and what do those people do? Because people want to be helpful.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things that I've included in Box of Hope is actually a tip card. So there's going to be a video that is going to be for the bereaved, and giving them tips on how they can care for themselves during times of grief, but also a video for those who are supporting the bereaved, so that they can understand how they can best, give them some ideas and tips on how they can support that person as well. Because like I said earlier, we're not taught how to deal with grief. We're not given tips. We're not given any education around it. And so we say things based on our experiences, based off of what we think might be okay. But oftentimes it can be said, something that can be said that ends up hurting the individual, right? And so I think one of the things that we can always do is start to ask and be more cognizant of what that person may need, because that will differ from person to person too. So just being able to observe the person, see what might be helpful for them, what wasn't helpful. If you say something and you see a reaction from them that's not so positive, that should tell you that they don't like that, right?
But it's not a lack of perhaps awareness, social awareness, situational awareness, the lack of sensitivity probably stems from the fact that as a society, we've seen this topic of death and dying and grief as a taboo. And like so many other things, we've not offered up any level of support, any level of instruction, as it were. And we laugh about it now. There's a fellow, someone passed, and at some point he started to laugh. Thankfully, those who were around understood the circumstance. Unfortunately, there were those observing that didn't quite get it and thought there was a level of disrespect. But he was recalling something particular that this person did, said, whichever. And it was a way of coping with it. And it was so great because, only George would do that. I mean, that's just classic George, as it were. And even to this day, however many years later, you can look fondly and you miss the person, but you have this thing. I share that to ask, and for some of us, when we see that, we don't appreciate that this too. You're grieving, but you're recalling the fun things, the love, the joy, the life, the light that person brought to the table.
Yeah,
there's so much to it, huh?
Yeah, and there's a thought that sort of the joy and the grief and the sadness can join hands, right? They can coexist, because how many times we haven't gone from a position of we're talking about our loved ones, we're reminiscing, we're laughing, and then 2 seconds later we're crying, bawling, right?
Inconsolable.
Yeah, exactly. So such is the sort of the roller coaster of grief, right?
Yeah, I think too, for some people, we don't understand why maybe friends, family, or the like don't necessarily want to go certain places, do not necessarily want to associate in certain environments, because that fond reminder of that person was synonymous with that thing.
Yeah.
And we don't get that, right? Or when something is happening at that place, we see as if a sacred site is being desecrated. We don't get that. Now, we are probably guilty of not sharing that emotion and that thought process.
Yeah.
But where's the sensitivity on the part of the rest to say, hey, this thing is a particular sore point. Yeah, 15 years later, it's still a sore point.
Yeah.
It's challenging, huh?
Yeah. And I think, again, it comes from a lack of education in the sense of we're not aware of what it's like to grieve. If we haven't, especially if we haven't gone through a major loss or haven't, really experienced grief like that, it's sometimes hard for us to really understand what someone might be going through or empathize with them, right? But when you've experienced grief, you understand that there are certain things that happen. And, like you said, there are things that remind you and will really trigger your grief and will really, hit that sore spot, so to speak, right? And so, me and you could probably have that conversation, and I get, okay, you say something and I get it, right? Yeah. Someone who has not gone through that grief like that, they may not necessarily, but this is where education and this is where a willingness to learn and know comes in, right? Because if you want to sincerely know how to support someone who's grieving, you're going to listen and you're going to learn about it. And part of what I do as a grief coach is to try to provide that information because, again, where do you go to get that information? There's no real place for that, right? And so, I try ever since I started the grief coaching just to be transparent about my own grief, so that people can learn from my own experience as well.
Yeah. He or she who knows it, who feels it knows it, right? And sorry. And, we see someone doing something, some activity, and we don't understand why they invest in so much money and so much of their time into this thing. And if we just step for a second, that old junk car that is being worked on, it will never be finished. The intent is never to finish it, perhaps, just to work on it. Or it may be to finish it, and the frustration that it's not being finished only adds to it. But it may not be a car, it may be a plot of land. Who knows what it is, right? How then do we get the onlookers, the supposedly supporting cast and the naysayers even, to understand that this thing is not just a coping mechanism. This thing is instrumental to that person's well-being.
Yeah. Well, I think, first of all, we have to, I think as the person who's grieving, right, you first have to give yourself permission to do what you need to do, for your own well-being. And there has to become a point in time where we're like, those surrounding you, if they don't necessarily get it and they don't want to invest the time to ask and to understand it, then I think you have to determine whether or not their opinions are going to matter, right? But for those who want to know, then I think it's an opportunity to share and to educate, right? To say, this is why I do what I do, or this is what helps me. But if you're looking on and you're wondering, okay, why is this person doing what they're doing? Ask questions. You might not ask it of the person, but ask someone like myself, who's a grief coach, and say, I see this person doing like that. Is this normal? Like, is this not, something that I should be worried for them? Or Ask questions. Take the time to invest in learning so that you can know and not just pass judgments, right?
That's it. We're so quick to condemn at times. And when we come back from the break, and, I'm so grateful that you're here. So thankful that you're willing to share as much time as you have. Whether it's the next 15 minutes or the next 5 days, we'll stay and we'll chat. No, I promise you I won't.
As long as you feed me, I'll stay with you 5 days.
You know what? Miss Susan, can you call us some turtle meat and some cornbread? We'll get it. I should ask Miss Ava for that earlier. I forgot it. But when we come back, the notion of give yourself permission, therefore boundaries, willing to establish boundaries, and to recognize that in this whole process, there needs to be this thing that we understand what is transpiring and why. And then hopefully in our honest desire to want to help, to get informed, to be in a better position. I would doubt very much that the parent helping the child with the homework looks at the homework, and if it doesn't know, just put down A is correct. You would probably ask maybe one of the other siblings or ask something else so that the child gets the correct answer. Pretty sure that would be what would transpire. So why too do we think we can do it with anything else, right? When we come back, Mr. Wanda, we'll continue the discussion. And to our listeners, 949-8037 if you want to ask a question, or be like Johan Moxon and frugal. Use the Flow toll-free line. Yeah, he says, he's not just cheap; he is economically conscious. 1-800-534-8255 is the Flow toll-free line. Johan, stay tuned for Talk Today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Make your house into a home. Welcome to Brand Source Home Gallery, your source for premium products and a premium experience. We'll design and install your dream kitchen with crafted cabinets, complemented with elegant appliances. We'll fill it with quality houseware and cookware. Custom-designed closet and storage solutions organize and beautify any area. And with the finest bedding, you'll get a perfect night's sleep knowing Brand Source Home Gallery has everything you need to make your house a home.
Inaja Productions, in association with Cash Wiz Cayman, presents Cash Wiz Cayman Kids Got Talent Show.
At Pinnacle Warehouse, Sunday,
July 17. Start the summer right and come out. Support and cheer on our kids as they show off their God-given talent. Showtime 5 p.m. Tickets are available at Cash Wiz Cayman and at the gate. Admission only $15. Part proceeds go to Feed Our Future. So join us on July 17 and experience an evening of talent. Cayman Kids Got Talent is sponsored by Cash Wiz, CUC Health City,
Cayman National Bank,
People's Choice Groceries, LED Lighting Engineering and Design, KPMG, Seaport Marine,
General Automotive Services, Maxwell Plumbing Services, Party Animal, Breezy Production,
Radio Cayman, Breeze FM, and Inaja Productions.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And we recognize the soberness of our topic, and it may be somber for some, but it's significantly important that we appreciate this is the path we all traverse. How we approach it, how it impacts us, and how, as I call it, the supporting cast, sort of assemble, as it were. So as we speak to, Ms. Rhonda Cornwall, life and grief coach, there is something where they say, if safety in numbers. if you have people that are there, they have your back no matter what. You can be the most independent person, but having that is crucial. And I think in the absence of that is only when you realize what you're missing. And for many of us, we will say, no man is an island. We will say, I got this. And we do. But it's only when you have the absolute assurance that someone is there, you realize how much the burden is lightened. But more importantly, realizing that when you don't have that, you only got you. You know, the sole employer, who's the sole employee, can't call in sick. You know, can't write a letter to the boss and say, can I get a day off? There are no vacation days.
Yeah.
It's very much the same. So in saying that, then, grief, you know, is almost like, let's not talk about that. Shh, whisper, don't say anything. Why?
Because I think it reminds us, you know, of, I think, our own existence in terms of how quickly that can end, right? It reminds us of death, topics that we don't want to face, we don't want to think about. You know, I'll be the first to share too when so I have a master's in professional counseling, and I took grief counseling as a elective, not because I was eager to learn about grief and death and dying, but because it was towards the end of my my degree, right? And it was one of those subjects that had the least amount of research papers. And so
you were smart, huh?
But you know, God has a sense of humor, because I did not know that was going to be ultimately where I end up, right? I didn't necessarily want anything to do with grief. And then fast forward to my internship, and I end up at a trauma hospital dealing with death and dying and supporting people during those kind of things. So I say that to say that it's not a topic that we, like you say, automatically want to jump into and talk about. But it's a part of life. It happens. And sometimes we can go through a long period of time and not have anyone close to us die. And so we don't have to face the grief and we don't have to think about it. But then life happens and we have someone. And what typically happens as well is, and you know, I'm sure listeners can sort of appreciate this. When you have a significant loss, it seems to come in multiples, right? Like all of a sudden you can go from a period where you didn't have anyone close to you or, you know, die. And then all of a sudden you've got 2 or 3 that have happened in short period of times. And you go, what's going on, right? And so I just say it to say that it reminds us of our, you know, of things that we don't want to feel, and things that we don't want to face. And so we would rather just run from it and push it away.
You see, and this is one of the many reasons why I really value and appreciate you as well. The academic, you know, side of you, unquestionable. The empathy is probably understated. And you bring so much to the table. So as we talk, we can appreciate the love. I mean, that's the word I used at the beginning, and that's the word that is just so evident. And for many of us, we don't appreciate that life has, you know, it's its own little path carved for us, you know, no matter what our subscription is. And the notion that for someone, you know, we want to prepare for something, so we'll get a funeral plan because we want to make it easier, you know, on those who are left, and we try to plan for it, but we can't. And death reminds us of our own, you know, mortality. We're not, you know, invincible. We may feel invisible at times, but we're not invincible. And so that reminder perhaps strikes a chord. And then if we don't face it, we can't embrace it, so therefore it can't defeat us, right? But by default, maybe we're losing if we don't at least acknowledge it.
Yeah. Well, what it does is it robs us of the opportunity to really be there for people who need us, and to also ourselves sort of equip ourselves with the tools and the knowledge to face things like that. So when our time comes, you know, and I mean, let's just be honest, right? We're all going to face grief at some point, whether it's a loss of a job, a loss of something that's important to you, a loss of a loved one. We're going to face grief. You know, our relationship goes bad. We're going to face grief, right? And if we've always ran from anything related to grief, right, we are going to face a situation where we don't have tools to deal with it because we've never faced it. And so we put ourselves at a disadvantage in that sense. But for the person who is willing to embrace that, then yes, you can't necessarily prepare for grief, but at least you got an understanding. And that makes a world of a difference. Just that acknowledgement that this is something natural that's happening to me makes a difference. Because just the emotional toll that grief has, it can leave you wondering what's going on with me, right? And
it drains you, man.
Yeah. It is definitely something else, and that's why it's good for us to know that there are resources and support that's there to help us during those times. And again, just to acknowledge that there's nothing wrong with seeking help.
That's the strength, you know, when you actually ask someone. I mean, think of it, you know, you're doing something and you're not sure you're doing it right, how to do it. You probably would ask whatever that resource that you think is credible and accessible. But for some reason, we see asking for help as a weakness, especially if it's something to do with our emotional well-being, as it were. With that in mind, you're, you know, a grief and a life and grief coach. How do we access you? Can we access you, for instance, if we wanted to reach out and say, hey, you know what, it's been this amount of time, whether that's yesterday or whether it was 1,000 yesterdays or 10,000. How would we get in touch with you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I live for supporting people, and I always think one of the most courageous things that people can do is reach out to someone like me and say, hey, listen, you know, like I really want your support. And so to do that, you can either visit my website, hopesdwelling.com, or email me, coachwithrhonda@gmail.com. You can find me on social media as well under Hope's Dwelling. So Facebook, Instagram. So easy to, you know, access me in those ways, and to say, hey, let's just have a chat and find out if this is right for me.
And I'm hoping that as people listen, that, see, for me, it's about connectivity, collaboration. It's about building bridges. And I've had a friend who says, you fail to monetize, you know, whatever resource and skill set that she thinks I have. It isn't about that. It's about making sure that people have a resource. You need this, that person offers that, let me connect you. There are many of us who know how to do that and they make a handsome living. They're consultants, they're, you know, whatever else. That's fine. I'm not going to, but we need to appreciate that this is a small community with incredible resources, but incredible needs as well. So in sharing that, let me then go back to asking about, you know, giving yourself permission. So a good friend of mine, she asked once, you know, what would you do if you knew your days were finite? You know? And without, and I haven't changed it since, and I've been thinking about it. Well, why is that the answer? Why is that really what I would do? And I would pray that I have sufficient time to put everything in order, so that those coming after don't have to do anything. They don't. It's all done. This is how I want it done. I want my shoes on. This is what I want to wear. This is right? Because that makes it easier for them.
Yeah.
Now, there are those of us who say, really, how I need that? I would throw the biggest party. I would go to this place, which is understandable. They want to see a site that they've never seen. They want to see a site that they always love and want to see for one last time. Right. They want to do these things. People like me will go, no, man, let me get my affairs in order.
Yeah.
But different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, definitely. I'll tell you, coming out of the death of my father, one of the things that kind of stood with me, and it's sort of the greatest lesson that I've taken from, you know, one of the greatest lessons I've taken from his loss, was to live my life without regrets. You know, say the things that need to be said, you know, love the people that you need to love, do the things that you need to do, because when he died, I can say that was one of the most comforting things for me, was the fact that I knew that I had supported him and did everything that I could do for him when he was living, and I didn't have regrets. And so that's my advice to individuals. Live life without regrets.
He always has a smile. I'm sorry. And thank you for sharing. You've been very public with it, and it's helped many of us. I still see that 2 days before when I saw him, and we were standing up in the supermarket right by the favorite fruits, and the rest of us and having the biggest laugh, and he's heading up to the farm, and it's that love for life that we embrace, but it's also a reminder that no man is promised tomorrow. And when we come back from this break, if it's okay with you, we take 15 minutes more if you want. It's yours. This notion of giving yourself permission, living without regrets. And there are many of us who will see people at a certain age and stage, oh, he's going through a midlife crisis. Well, if you're 60 and you're going through a midlife crisis, you got another 60 years, but at least midpoint 60 plus 60, that's 120, right? What is it then about when a person comes to realization, either through illness, death, or something significant, that they then start to give themselves permission, they then start to appreciate, you know what, I'm going to tell you how I feel, I want to say it as you say, I'm going to do it, and not be too overly concerned. Could we talk about that? And perhaps if it's not inappropriate, ask the question, why is it then that it has to wait until these things happen before either A, we do it, or B, we're forgiven for doing and saying, but unlike the young person who does it, we will have a less than complimentary comment about that person's behavior. Could that be part of a discussion?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You see, when you have the intellect, when you have the courage, and you have that true heart of service, you can talk like this. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Unleash the leadership potential of employees and managers through the globally acclaimed Ken Blanchard series, now offered at the Chamber of Commerce Training Center. Designed for new and experienced managers, the Ken Blanchard series will give new leaders the fundamentals of management, and experienced leaders will learn new best techniques to lead and support staff. Make the Chamber Training Center a partner in your business success. Call the Chamber today at 949-8090 or visit caymanchamber.ky for further information.
Busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
You see how hard it's raining?
Yeah, and I don't have time to fight traffic and get my lunch from Subway. I have so much work to do.
Why don't you order Subway by using the Let's Eat or Bento app? Save time, stay dry, and get your sandwich fast.
I never thought of that. Great idea. I'm going to order now.
Order me a veggie pizza while you're at it.
And a cookie platter for the office.
Too busy at work or home? Is the rainy weather stopping you from dining out? Order your favorite Subway sandwich, wrap, or pizza through the Let's Eat or Bento app with fast and reliable delivery. Subway, eat fresh.
With Logic, you get more things you do want, like faster fiber internet, more TV, entertainment, and better customer service. And you get less of the things you don't want, like waiting, boredom, and disappointment. More of the good, less of the bad. It just makes sense. Or should I say, it's logical. See what I did there? Call us or go to logic.ky to find out how you could be getting way more of what's good.
The Cayman Islands Health Services Authority's general practice and public health clinics have relocated to Smith Road Medical Center. At the new location, you'll receive top quality care in a comfortable, modern space, enhancing your patient experience. Do you have flu-like symptoms or other non-emergent illnesses or injury? HSA's new urgent care walk-in clinic is now open at the main hospital campus. The new general practice location is for appointments only. For more information, call 949-8600 or visit hsa.ky.
Stay clean, stay safe, hey man. Reflections sells gallons of sanitizer for only $25. Buy 2 clip-on sanitizers for just $5. Reflections has the best KN95 masks or reusable cloth masks, and you can get 2 for only $5. Blue surgical masks and face shields are available for children and adults, as well as 10 and 50 packs of black surgical masks. Volume discounts available at Reflections. Jose's Rubus, Reflections Hemp and Tobacco, all 5 Liquor for Less locations, and Food for Less, open 24 hours every day. Don't miss the Liquor for Less incredible priced better markdown. Hundreds of fine from $2.99. Cases of ice cold below wholesale prices. Save $10 off liters of absolute exclusively at Liquor for Less. Prices so low, we can't say them on the radio.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thanks for joining us. And honestly, the phone lines are open if you wish to be a part of a discussion. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. Ms. Rhonda Cornwell joins us. And the notion of being a life and grief coach for some, may be unsettling to them. But then, for me, it's comforting that we have you, not just you the person, but you with the academic, but also the compassion, the true altruistic approach to being there. What was it I was asking before the break that we could talk about, if that's okay? But maybe before we continue, we talk about Box of Hope. Could you not just remind us how to get in touch, but what is it, so that we appreciate that we need support sometimes continually, but sometimes we need support at that time when people don't realize we need it the most.
So, again, Box of Hope is a special care boxes that I've created to be able to support those that are bereaved or those just going through a difficult time as well. So the box is created to deliver, inspiration, encouragement, grief knowledge, again, because part of understanding what's going on with us is being able to educate ourselves about it. And so the box is going to provide that. But there's also going to be self-care items in the box as well. And so Box of Hope is something tangible that you can give to someone that's grieving, to remind them that you're there for them, that they're not alone or forgotten. It can also be something that's purchased by the bereaved themselves, if they need to, have that encouragement, have that extra kind of something to support themselves. And then there's also a box that's going to be dedicated to self-care for anyone who wants to enhance their self-care, because that's another, essential part of just taking care of yourself. You need to have things that are going to help you to do that. And so, I one of the things that I say about Box of Hope is that it is the tool that's going to help to close the gap between you wanting to support someone but don't know how to, and that person on the other end that's grieving, not having that support, because Box of Hope is going to give you something that you can, in a real way, take to that person and, say to them that I'm still here for you. I still remember you. You still matter to me. And so that's the whole essence of what Box of Hope is, and what I hope it will be for people.
And I'm glad, as I listened to you, a few of our listeners have messaged in, and really from what they shared, grateful for our discussion. This particular listener saying, very interesting discussion, topic today, grief, and is asking if we could talk about recognizing that when we lose someone, that is close to us, that it, evokes a sense of grief and loss and mourning, and but what about relationships? We alluded to that earlier, but let's talk about it, because jobs, maybe moving homes, maybe different things, but relationships. Give us a perspective on that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Grief isn't just isolated to a death of someone that you love or know, but it is an emotional reaction to any kind of significant loss. So if you lose a job, you lose a relationship, oftentimes we go through, where we've had relationships for a long time, or it could even be a short period of time. All that, I think the identifying thing is, was it significant to you? Did it matter to you? Because if it mattered to you and you no longer have access to it, you're going to miss it. You're going to feel that loss. And so grief is a result of that. And so the same sort of feelings that can be evoked when someone dies, you can have from a lost relationship or a loss of a job. I'll never forget. And at that time, I wasn't a grief coach. I was actually studying. This is when I was, and that's where this elective came in handy, because I had a coworker who had applied for a position that she was acting in for a while, and she didn't get it. And she was, showing signs of grief. I mean, it really bothered her. It really had her down. And everyone around me couldn't understand why she was reacting like this. But because of my training, I understood that was a loss for her. So I could, and then, in turn, kind of support her in that and acknowledge that for her, that this is a loss. The fact that you didn't get this promotion. I mean, because here's the thing, right? When we look at things that are outside of death, right? To understand what that means to a person, what are they losing, right? What they may be losing the comfort of having someone companionship. That's a loss. Having someone who may have helped financially. Again, there's so many factors that explain why grief, really occurs and why we feel what we feel. So I think it's, for us, it's easy to look and say, oh, well, it's get another, boyfriend or get another mate or whatever, right? Yeah. But sometimes it's not that simple. And it's really not acknowledging the loss for the person.
And it's interesting when we think of relationships in that sense. For many of us, just that's what our internal mechanism that we, hey, you know what, this thing might result, that could be the outcome. It could be very remote, but we're not even going to risk it. So we remain stoic, and we're not going to put ourselves out there so much just in case. And we deny ourselves so much, right, that we end in self-sabotage even before we begin properly. Yeah. And that, I think, is where self-awareness, a sense of vulnerability. And I come back to when you were saying, live without regrets. Give yourself permission. For many of us, that may mean consciously, deliberately, genuinely leaving A and moving to, X or to B. But we won't. And it's not just the sense of safety that we think we have. It's the prospect that, what if?
Yeah.
Does that play into this somewhat?
Yeah. Well, a big thing that we haven't sort of identified here is fear. Right?
Okay.
Like that's at the heart of a lot of things.
You've alluded to it now.
Yeah, we don't do things because we are afraid of them, or it brings up a sense of fear for us. But of course, if we're going to act based on the fear, then we will never experience what's on the other side of that, right? Yeah. What could be the joy, the happiness, the opportunities, if we're going to stay away from it because we feel like we're being safe.
Yeah, that thing, playing it safe. And it's smart in some cases,
There's room for being safe, yes. But I think we always got to ask ourselves, what are we missing? What are we going to miss out on if we don't take opportunities? If we're going to live in fear, what could be, right?
Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Yeah.
That probably Susan's reminder. Hey, Q guys, that's the news. Maybe that's my saving grace for not making another comment. You want to join us after the break and we can talk again?
Yes, definitely.
I am so grateful for all of our guests, and especially this discussion at this time. Please join us after the break.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Former Cayman Islands Governor Michael Gore has passed away. Governor Gore served from 1992 to 1995, sitting as governor when Her Majesty the Queen visited the Cayman Islands in 1994 and knighted former Financial Secretary Vassal Johnson, Cayman's first knight. José Eduardo dos Santos, Angola's second president who ruled the mineral-rich state for almost 4 decades, has died at the age of 79, the government there says. He died in Spain, where he was treated after suffering a cardiac arrest. Dos Santos will be remembered for ending a long-running civil war in the early 2000s. His supporters dubbed him the architect of peace, but his legacy is soiled by high levels of corruption and human rights violations while he was in power. And Hollywood stars and filmmakers, including Al Pacino, Francis Ford Coppola, and Robert De Niro, have paid tribute to the late Godfather actor James Caan, who died on Wednesday at the age of 82. Caan played Sonny Corleone in Coppola's classic 1972 gangster movie. Pacino, who starred as Michael Corleone, described him as a great actor and a dear friend. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
For the latest in news and information,
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
We wanna go and dally. Bacayard, Caymanian and Jamaican cuisine. 7 Mile Beach might have changed, but Bacayard is bringing it back. True Caribbean food in the heart of 7 Mile, just like Mama's home cooking. Brown stew snapper, Cayman style beef, jerk chicken, turtle stew, and the delicious list goes on. Dine in, take out, or order with the Bento app. Bacayard, Caymanian and Jamaican cuisine, 269 West Bay Road, or call 746-4603. Bacayard, daily lunch specials, and the one-of-a-kind Fun Day Sunday brunch. Bacayard.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. And thanks again to Ms. Rhonda Cornwall for sharing with us. And this discussion can be challenging for many of us. Forgive me for that outset, that it kind of resonated a little bit, and sometimes, even me, I'm not a robot. I do have some emotions at times. Thanks for reminding me. Maybe some people don't understand that, but yes, cut me, do I not bleed, they say. But as a life and grief coach, and we're talking about it, and I want you to remind us about the box of hope. And for those that are listening, of course, the phone lines are there. And if anything I have personally to say, even the topic resonates with you in a way that makes you uncomfortable, lovingly, it's my apology. But we all traverse this road at different times and in different ways, and for different periods, and it comes and goes. I think, as Rhonda shared, know that support is here, and as I've said at the outset, I say again and I say continue. You have such a loving, wonderful spirit and heart that it's great to know that we can draw on you. And if people want to, if it's okay, let me ask, because I think too many times we don't understand that the resources literally right in front of us. Do we embrace it? How do we get in touch with you?
Yeah, and thank you as well for all your kind words. It really does mean a lot, because it's important for people to know that when they reach out for something that's so sensitive and so personal to them, that they do so to someone that they can trust and someone they can feel comfortable with. And so that's who I try to be. And so thank you for saying that. But yeah, if you are listening, you're thinking, okay, I could benefit from, having someone that can support me during, times of grief. You can reach out to me by email, coachwithrhonda@gmail.com, or you can visit my website and get all the information there in terms of contact. It's hopesdwelling.com. So or social media as well, Facebook, Instagram, Hope's Dwelling. Just put in Hope's Dwelling or Rhonda Cornwall, you'll find me.
Yeah. And I hope that as a people increasingly we start to understand that there's actually strength, not just safety in numbers, but there's strength also and safety in seeking assistance. Find, as you said, a person that you feel comfortable, trust their confidentiality, understand their competence, and just share with them so that there's a level of compassion in your exchange. And it's amazing how we can see what happens in a person when they're surrounded by loving, caring, nurturing people. We see it in our children, but how often are we willing to consciously, deliberately reach out to be that, that source?
Yeah. And, there's another sort of aspect of this that I want to touch on because I think it's important, because there's a segment of our community that oftentimes isn't able to access support. And I'm talking about our men, right? Because
spell it out for us, okay?
and I only say that because I've been guilty of this myself in the sense that when I first started out grief coaching, I was really focusing primarily on coaching women. And recently I have started to coach men as well. And it's my interaction with these men that has helped me to realize that men grieve too, right?
No, we don't.
But here's the thing. We, in society, we grow our men and our boys and, grow our men. We teach men that it's not okay for them to feel their emotions, to deal with their emotions. But if we're all human, how are men supposed to, how are they supposed to deal with grief when it happens? And so it's important for us to make it sort of level for everyone to access support and to acknowledge that feelings happen to everyone. Everyone has emotions. And so those support and those resources are available to everyone, whether it's, children, men, women, everyone should be able to know that they don't have to go through grief alone.
And I'm glad that you shared that, because I think increasingly we need to recognize that, just as I said at the outset, there is safety, there's good sense in seeking support, availing yourselves of it. But for some reason, we see this thing that if you are stoic, if you are, this person that is almost unshakable, immovable, that's a great thing. And in many respects, it might just be. But when you're hurting, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a loss of someone, whether it's this thing that, by all intents and purposes, if things were fair and life was, fair, it would be yours. That job that is yours, that whatever. Hey, that's not how it is. And my mother would always say, to this day, not every disappointment is a misfortune. That doesn't comfort you until way back when you realize that it was good, as you said about that elective, God's sense of humor. So how then do we get people to appreciate, as you said, men hurt, they grieve. The solace isn't necessarily in the bottle or in the punching bag. The solace isn't on a fishing trip. Sometimes you actually need to draw alongside somebody and step up. How then do we avoid imposing ourselves? Who asks you for help anyway? If I want to hear from you, I'll call you. Some of us just insert ourselves into others' lives unsolicited.
Yes, that does happen. I've had individuals call me and go, this person in my family needs to talk to you. And again, I think what happens in cases like this is we see individuals hurting, and our goal, our objective is for that hurt to stop, right? So a lot of times, it may seem not invited, right? And what they're doing, you think, okay, this isn't the best thing for me. But I would venture to say that a lot of times it's done out of a desire to help. but it's also done, I think, out of lack of understanding as well, because sometimes we look at people and how they're dealing with their grief and think they're doing it wrong. Right?
Yeah.
Because we have a certain perspective of how
there's a right way to grieve, right?
Right, exactly. And so I think it is, first of all, that's why I mentioned it, I think, in the beginning, just saying that we need to take time to sort of observe people and to talk to people, figure out where they're at and what they need, kind of thing, before we jump off to say, here's what the solution is, because everyone grieves differently. And what might seem to be, a wrong way of grieving could very well be what that person needs to go through to be able to continue to move forward.
I think, too, as we talk about it, it's probably easier to identify when someone is, in our minds, doing something that is destructive. Not eating or eating too much or eating certain things or not eating certain things. Right? But maybe we don't even recognize when all seems calm on the surface and everything seems okay. They're showing up to work. They're managing everything. But we don't know what is transpiring within them at times that they're removed from our sight.
Yeah.
Are there any sort of, not just cues and clues that we can sort of look at, but tips that we can help?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, sometimes grievers can wear masks, right? Oftentimes we wear masks because, again, we sometimes...
Especially now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. But because we feel like we're not allowed to, it's not acceptable to show our grief. So we put on this sort of persona that we're okay. But there may be telling tales in terms of, you might see the person withdrawing or isolating. They're declining invitations to go out or that kind of thing. And again, for me, I feel like you have to take time to get to know people as well, because if it's someone you love and they've gone through an experience and you see things that you haven't seen before in them, right? Take the time to observe them, talk with them, because it's going to come out, one way or the other. Someone who is, excessively working, and this wasn't the normal pattern of behavior, and then there's no real reason for them to be doing that, then they could be trying to numb their emotions by doing that. And so I would say the first thing is to take time to just, be observant of the person.
I guess this is why, as I listen to you, I think it's even more important for us to have that supporting cast for those of us that are the colleagues and co-workers, the family members, to stop and to reflect and to be insightful. But obviously sometimes those are the people that see, the least, and perhaps would be the ones that would probably see it long after everybody else has. Because what is it, you're seeing it all the time, and that's the norm. It's the stranger who might say, hey, you got a little more gray hair now, or you got that line, that thing that is very evident to that person that only sees you ever so often.
Yeah. And the other question too is the individuals around you, your work co-workers, your boss, your even your family, are they playing into that kind of narrative that you've got to get on with life, right? And they maybe not deliberately, right, but they need you to kind of continue to be functioning at work and that sort of thing, and everything moves on. And so there's not that, let me stop and just check and make sure that she's really doing okay. And she's not just acting, because it's more comfortable for me, and it suits what I need more as well.
You stop crying because that make me cry. We don't see the thing that person is experiencing and that mask that they might be wearing. But even though maybe when we come back from this final break, even when we see it, it's uncomfortable for us, so we don't bother to acknowledge it. We don't see these things, extended hours at work, the distractions that we have now preoccupied ourselves with, whatever it is, right? And this is where, as I was saying, that I'm reflecting on how important it is that when people come into our lives that are there, that for some reason the fear, it's another word that comes into mind that is the opposite of courage, that we seem to exhibit of embracing that thing, that person, that opportunity. All right. Phone lines are there for those who want to call. Right, Miss Susan? She's right there, And if today was a Friday, you could have got, some turtle meat and cornbread, but it's not a Friday, apparently. Let's pause and take that break. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Subway is giving you flavor around the clock with the new Chicken Squad sandwich options. Try the classic chicken and bacon ranch, the sweet and savory barbecue chicken, or the chicken cordon bleu. 3 new appetizing and delicious sub options that you can also make into a wrap. The Chicken Squad is available at Subway for only a limited time. Subway, giving you something to cluck about.
We think it's time you crossed over to a new vehicle. And with the Toyota Corolla Cross now at Vant Motors, you have plenty of reasons to make the switch. The crossover body and hybrid engine is a sleek design in a sturdy structure with a spacious interior that opens to extensive cargo space. Stuck in traffic? The high-performance self-charging hybrid system automatically switches between gas and electric vehicle mode, helping you lower both fuel costs and carbon emissions. The Corolla Cross has full LED lighting inside and out, an integrated display audio system with energy monitor, and a dual-zone climate control system to ensure comfort for all. Test drive the new Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid today at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for spending some of your time. I know it's a Friday afternoon, and one day we'll see the importance of maintaining that strong family value and that family system where the 4-day work week is actually very productive. Studies aside that demonstrate that perhaps one day will be embraced. But I just a quick little PSA for me, Mr. For those who are joining us, this discussion on grief, and hopefully we'll understand that we all grieve at different times in different ways, but it's a part of life, and we want to, as resourcefully, as respectfully, as responsibly, draw alongside. So Ms. Rhonda Cornwall, Box of Hope, there should be hope. Where there's hope and there's help, there may be happiness, and there may be actually a sense of love and joy and hopeful expectation. So Box of Hope, what is it again?
Yes. So, and again, that's the whole idea behind Box of Hope too, is to provide hope to individuals, because when you are grieving and you've been sort of left alone, you can wonder if you're cared about, if you're supported, if people actually remember what you've lost. And so Box of Hope was created to give individuals who are supporting those who are bereaved a way to do so in a tangible way, that they can deliver a box filled with items that will remind the individual that they are, they're loved. Oftentimes when there's been, or to cheer people up, or there's been a loss, we'll send flowers, and flowers are wonderful. I mean, they do cheer you up. They do, inspire you and encourage you. But they perish, and eventually you can't enjoy them, right? Yeah. So the idea of Box of Hope is to provide items that will last items that the individual can look at and be inspired and reminded that they're not alone, that there are people who cared enough to send this to them. And again, it's a practical way for those who want to support to do so. And this could very well be, employers wanting to support their employees who are bereaved, because that's a great way of reminding that they're valuable to the organization as well.
That's it. And that's the thing. I think we all want to feel a sense of value. We want to feel valued.
Yeah.
We want to be validated. We also want to be remembered.
Yeah.
And for me, if you take the time to send something to someone, I think what that does for the sender is a sense of consciousness, in a sense that in doing this, you now may have empathy, but at least you are aware that this thing is transferred. It may be a simple comment, hey, today's your birthday, I wasn't reminded by some social media app, I actually have it and I know it. It's a simple gesture. It's not done religiously. It's done genuinely, and you know when that has happened. Or it may be way back when people used to actually have good penmanship, and they would write something and they would send it to you, and there's someone to hold those things. But it doesn't have to be that today, but to be reminded that someone is thinking of you, perhaps is one of the greatest gifts. I like your sentiment with respect to the flowers. I guess I always say it's practical. Give me a plant that may blossom one day. Flowers would be nice, but I have to discard them at some point unless I press them, because they're only going to perish. I mean, that's the point of cut flowers, right? Give me a mango tree, okay, my mango in particular. But that's another story. So then in that, the sensitivity on us who want to be supportive is very important as well, because you may mean to help only to hinder, hurt, and harm unknowingly. And again, the reason why I created Box of Hope is because it wasn't just thinking about the person that's bereaved, but thinking about those who want to support them, but you just don't know, and so oftentimes you stay away from the person because you don't want to do harm, right? And you think, okay, well, I might say something to harm them. So Box of Hope is a way that you don't have to worry about, okay, what items I'm going to put in this, if I'm going to give a gift myself, right? No, that's done for you. The items were especially created in terms of put together to provide support for the person. And so you just have to purchase it and deliver it, or, we deliver it for you. But you just have to do that to be able to support your loved one, and let them know that you're there for them. And that, again, one of the things that I encourage is to use the box as a conversation starter, right? You don't know what to say to the individual. Well, if you sent them a box, ask them about the things that are in the box, and use that as a way of being able to connect with them. And, that'll open the door to conversation, because the things that are in the box, they're going to be, comfort cards and, grief books, that sort of thing that will, give them the opportunity to have something to talk about. So use it as a connector to strengthen that bond with that person. And I'm prayerful that as a people, we'll appreciate how important it is that there are many of us who, as you said, don't know what to say or do, so we stay away. And that may be interpreted by some, person doesn't care, but they actually care enough to give you the space. And then there are some of us that are there from the beginning, they're continually decades on. That's the kind of support that you want, but it's a toll on that person as well, and that person is going to be experiencing life, as it were. And as I listen to you, I'm reminded of a gift someone gave me once. I enjoy reading, and that particular, book, that material is instructive, it's significant, because at the end of the day, you know that this person knows you. You know that the person has given to you this thing to you with the greatest intent to help, to show love, to show support, and it takes you. But that connection is what I think allows people to be able to have that continued, let's say, friendship, that transcends time. But you're making it convenient because all I have to do is say, hey, send this to that person, and you, through your, expertise, your own experience, your own training and education, will know what is appropriate.
Yeah.
But we need to know to pick up on it and use it as the way in to continue that relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is the goal of Box of Hope to connect people, to let people have something that can bridge that divide of that awkward space that can sometimes happen when you don't know what to say. And so, I kind of have the tagline, when you don't know what to say, send a box of hope, right? And use that as a way of saying, hey, did you get the box? Or, I have this gift for you. What do you think about the items that are in there? What was your favorite? Just use it as an opening to break the ice, so to speak, and to have that discussion of, I'm here to support you.
Something that has just struck me earlier as we were talking, a person's birthday or some other occasion, maybe they get married or something, we send things, and sometimes, it's just a gag gift. We do that lovingly. Sometimes even unknowingly, unconsciously, this would be perfect for her, but she'll get a joke out of this. And we do that. But when it comes to something like this, we're a little bit, perhaps because we want to be sensitive and respectful, a little bit more reticent and not doing this, only to realize that giving that just reminds the person, hey, we're here. We're still, looking at you as the goofy person that you are, and we're here for you. Nothing is going to take away that love and that support. But if we withdraw, it may seem like that has been, taken away from us too. So I'm so grateful that you have, taken your circumstances and again showing your heart of service and helping us to help each other. So thank you very much. You are a treasure.
No, thank you so much.
All right. If it's okay, because I feel that in our community, with all that we've been experiencing, and honestly, I don't believe that we are even cognizant of the impact that the last couple of years. I joke, deliberately, publicly, and say about these last 2 years have been long centuries. Because I've seen the impact, the loss, I've seen the suffering, financial and otherwise. I've seen some of the challenges that even what is seen to be the most resourceful, resilient people. But I don't think what we've appreciated, because time has to be the only one that can pass, that will teach us, is the impact it's going to have on us.
Yeah.
And we look at our children, are very young. We see it in their elderly. But what is happening and what may be the consequence for them? And if anybody in any position of authority, whether it's a parent or whether it's a politician or a pastor or whoever, if they're offended, I want to apologize. I want to ask of you, stop and reflect within. If we're in a position of authority, are we despots? And are we so dictatorial in our own discourse that we're now insensitive to the consequences of what we may genuinely think are, intended for the greater good? But what is that impact on, successive generations? And that, I think, is the greatest concern that is being so easily ignored. And yet, it's slapping us right in the face. But, anyway, sorry. Just one. Thank you.
You're welcome. And again, I think what you're speaking to too, it's just for us to, in any decision that we make, to look at it from a broader perspective and to consider what, not just the practical and economics and, all of those kind of things too, but what is it going to mean mentally, emotionally? Like, we need to take the holistic look on decisions that we make to make sure that we're taking care of our people.
That's it. That is our greatest resource. Yeah. It's also the one that is probably most abused, neglected, ignored, and somehow discarded. So if you want to get in touch with Box of Hope and Rhonda Cornwall, what's the best way again?
So you can email hello@myboxofhope.com, or you can go on the website and you can actually order from the website as well. And it is myboxofhope.com. So www.myboxofhope.com.
All right. Hey, thank you very much. You are a treasure, a wonderful person. And if anybody says that my word is incorrect, then let me know. But you're beautiful inside and out, and thank God for you. You're just amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on your show, and it's always a pleasure to talk with you. So thank you.
You're most welcome. And I trust and pray that those who listen would appreciate that, life brings many challenges, and there are great opportunities, and sometimes there are setbacks. And, every day that I would probably, if I was, trying to, and I'm not, was trying to disprove my parents, I want to realize how wise that they are. Mama says, not every disappointment is a misfortune. We understand that to be true. Dada says, Rome wasn't built in a day. And I thought, what do you mean? But that is true as well. And so if we draw alongside each other, we offer up, that box of hope. We offer up that sense of love for those of us who believe in prayer. If we pray with and for, if we just be loving, above all, we would see that there is not just tolerance and acceptance. There's also a sense of giving and receiving. And thank you so much for being you.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, Monday is another day. It's not a public holiday. You won't see one again until November. When I get, I was going to joke and say when I become governor, I'll change that. But, it'll happen before that. I believe in coping through laughter. You may not laugh with me. You may laugh at me, but that's fine. Just laugh all the same. It takes a lot of effort. But please join Mr. Art for the record on Monday morning. Come back for Talk Today after the midday news and midday meditation. I trust that as you pray for me, you're reminded that my petition is that you ask for, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, health, happiness, and prosperity, and that, I have a spirit of giving and thanksgiving. Until Monday, my friends, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
46 years.
3 beloved isles.
1 beloved station, Radio Cayman. The